Good morning everybody and welcome back to This Week in Magic Online Finance. I'm your host Chaz Andres, and as always we're going to get started this week with the news. The big story of course being that Ravnica Allegiance preview season is here and the new set looks great. I can't really imagine any fans of the newest 5 guilds being disappointed by what we've seen so far, and I say that as somebody who's been disappointed by my beloved Simic time and time again. But mark my words, this time the Simic are for real, they all look great, and the standard metagame is about to be shaken up in a pretty major way. That said, I'm not really that big a fan of most of the new mythic rares we've seen so far. Dovin Grand Arbiter looks incredibly narrow, and Kaya Orzhov Usurper just doesn't seem that good. It's possible that I'm underrating both of these cards because 3-mana Planeswalkers do tend to play better than they look, but based on what I'm seeing, I just wouldn't recommend pre-ordering either of them right now. And then there's Prime Speaker Vannifar, my personal favorite card in the set. I love the new Simic guild leader. I just can't recommend buying her, anytime soon because people are wildly overrating and overpricing her based on the fact that she looks like, a fixed version of Birthing Pod, but let's see how this plays out. Cards that are fixed versions of earlier broken cards tend to be overrated for a while because people look at them and see Birthing Pod and want it to be broken and silly, and what they don't see are all the downsides. So I really hope that Vannifar ends up spawning a cool new archetype, but I'm staying away for now. That said, there are plenty of cards in Ravnica Allegiance that I am going to buy fairly early. Bedevil, for example, I know it's going to be fairly expensive to start off with on MTGO, but it's going to be such a key format staple. I'm so high on that card, I definitely want to get my set early on. Then there's Growth Chamber Guardian, which I think might be one of the low-key most powerful cards that Wizards has printed in a long time. Yeah, it looks kind of like Squadron Hawk, and I know I just said, oh, a card that looks like an earlier card but a fixed version, blah blah blah. This card is actually really good. It's good when you're ahead, it's good when you're behind, it's good early in a game, it's good late in a game, it's good when your opponent holds up mana. It's just good. I want 4 of these right away. Lastly, there's Spawn of Mayhem, my favorite mythic rare. It is just so powerful, and I think it's one of the biggest reasons why Rakdos Aggro is going to be one of the big breakout decks early on. Let's move on now to Gaining Ground, where in Standard it was Nexus of Fate once again showing life. Good for you, Nexus of Fate. You jumped 4 tickets from 6 up to 10, and I don't think this card is done growing yet. The big reason here is that Wilderness Reclamation is a new uncommon in Ravnica Allegiance, and that card looks like it slots in perfectly to ban Nexus, so that deck may be once again near the top of the metagame. Now, that doesn't mean Nexus of Fate is going to hit the 60 ticket mark like it did back in the crazy days of August, but there's some room to run here yet. So where might Nexus of Fate actually end up if it does start to see play again? Well, last time out, after all the nonsense quieted down, it stabilized around the 14 ticket mark, so that's about where my target is this time as well. That said, knowing how economies work on MTGO, it'll probably spike up to 20 before calming down and ending up somewhere around that 14-15 ticket mark. Of course, that would require an actual Bant Nexus resurgence, which is far from a guarantee. But if that does happen, expect this card to roughly double up in price again. Let's shuffle on over to Modern, where the card that gained the most ground this week was Rest in Peace, the anti-graveyard staple, jumping from 8 tickets up to 10. And this is actually the continuation of a trend that had been brewing for the past couple of months. Rest in Peace was on its way up to 10 when the arena crash happened, it lost value just like everything else, and now it's back up to the 10 ticket mark. And this is a very organic piece of movement. It's a really good card against the dredge decks that are all over the Modern metagame right now, so there's still room left to grow here. I don't think 15 tickets by February is out of reach for Rest in Peace, especially considering there are no more master sets on the horizon. Let's move on to our biggest loser, where in Standard it was yet again Vivian Reed for the 2nd week in a row, dropping about 4 tickets from 16 down to 12. And she wasn't alone. Other powerful M19 cards like Sarkhan Fireblood and Nicol Bolas the Ravager also lost value again this week as the set continues to adjust to its new post-set redemption reality. At least Vivian seems to have bottomed out at this point, and I don't see her going any lower unless Golgari midrange leaves the metagame's top tier. We should probably also consider that this same phenomenon is going to happen to Guilds of Ravnica cards once that set leaves its set redemption period in late February. I don't think it's time to sell your extra guilds of Ravnica cards yet. At least wait a couple of weeks until standard season kicks into high gear, but I'm definitely going to give you a couple of reminders in mid to late February so that you can sell hopefully before that drop. Let's scurry over to Modern, where the biggest loser this week was Horizon Canopy, dropping 4 more tickets from 32 down to 28. And this doesn't actually seem to be the result of some big epic swan dive that's still happening. It's more that this card has been bouncing around near the bottom of its market for the past month or so, really ever since the crash. It's been going up by a few tickets, going down by a few tickets, and this is because there just hasn't been a big influx of new Modern interest since that depression. Really what's been happening is we had the holidays, and now I've got Ravnica Allegiance previews, so people are focused on Standard, and Modern, there just hasn't been anything driving those prices. It'll be interesting to see if that changes, because I really like Horizon Canopy's fundamentals. It is a really important card in the Modern metagame. There aren't a ton of copies floating around on MTGO, so I think it's going to go up at some point. I don't know, maybe a Modern unbanning or a major tournament will change these cards' fortunes and turn the market around. The sneak of the week this week is Mishra's Bauble. That scrappy little uncommon that was as low as 7 tickets back in October. It's up to 12 now and continuing to rise. The thing about Mishra's Bauble is that it's not currently a 4 of in any of the best decks in Modern, but it's in a lot of second tier lists. Decks like Death's Shadow, Jund, and even some builds of Ironworks combo. It definitely sees a lot of play, and I believe that it will continue to recover in price as the Modern market does the same. It's not going to end up back near 20 tickets or anything, but it's still a solid buy right now at 12. As always, we're going to end the week by taking a look at the MTGO Traders sales data over the past 7 days. And this gives us a great idea of which cards are selling the best right now, regardless of price increases or decreases. Looking at overall sales by volume, there's really nothing new to report. It's all the same staples we've been seeing at the top of this list for months now. Cards like Lightning Bolt, and Steam Vents, and Faithless Looting, and you know those cards are good and you know those cards are selling well. One card I'd really like to highlight though is Damping Sphere. And yeah, Damping Sphere is a really cheap uncommon. It's actually worth 0.06 tickets according to MTG Goldfish, which is basically free, but it is also one of the most played cards in Modern and has been selling well ever since its release date. At this point, I'd recommend just adding 6 or 8 of these to every other order you make and just starting to hoard them, because at some point it will bounce up to like 1 or 2 tickets, and at that point you can just cash out your stack and basically get some free money. Moving on to overall sales by price, it looks like yet another calm before yet another storm. Other than Arclight Phoenix, which is doing gangbusters business, there really aren't that many Standard cards anywhere near the top of this list. Is that because Standard is unpopular right now? No, it's because we're all waiting to see what the new metagame is going to look like. So expect a lot of Standard movement over the next couple of weeks, but we're just not quite there yet. And that's all I got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chaz Andres, and I will see you again next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.